I know my allergies are acting up, but I do believe that's the smell of football in the air. Hey, welcome back everybody to another episode of Lombardi Time Brews, where I'm your host, John Delray. Today feels like a Friday, doesn't it? I don't know, at least to me. Sun shining, beautiful day here in Wisconsin. But alas, it's only Wednesday. Yesterday, more so open to the media. We saw a lot of player quotes from the locker, stuff like that. So we finally have some real OTA storylines to dive into, which we're going to cover today. Before we get to that, though, just a couple real quick just news tidbits, one specifically about this channel. On Friday, I mentioned this on Monday, on Friday, I'm actually going to be doing a live show. Yes, a live Q&A from 5 to 5:30 Central Time, Lambeau time. So you got any questions about the Packers? You want to just come hang out, have a drink, do this over YouTube? Yep, it's going to be exclusively on YouTube, a live show from 5 to 5:30, just an open Packers discussion and Q&A. Something that, we're kind of looking at as a channel doing more often, especially coming off of our draft live stream that I think was a lot of fun for a lot of people. Something that you could see implemented maybe like once a week over the course of the summer leading into our live game watch parties, broadcasts, whatever you want to call it, heading into the season. So Claudia and I will be here 5 to 5:30 Lambeau time on Friday for a live Q&A, Packers discussion, and hangout. So today, we are going into the storylines of OTAs. Yeah, there's real football now. Like, actual sweet goodness of football on the field at the Don Hutson Center. I think they even got some stuff going on in Ray Nitschke, spreading the players out, going through a bunch of different things, doing even some installs on a more, let's say, philosophical level as opposed to like pure game prep. But some really interesting notes and observations that we want to talk about that I'm going to get to in this video here. I've got about 10 of them, and I'm just going to go through. Some of these are just points of clarity, things that I've seen a lot of fans questioning about, a lot of people kind of maybe even, I don't want to say struggling, but maybe misunderstanding or have gotten some bad info about what OTAs may entail. So we're going to get to all of that. First up, I'm going to say the first storyline is that the rotations that you're seeing, that they matter, that they mean something. And I'm going to go with kinda, right? Like, it was pretty widely broadcast yesterday that Lucas Van Ness, their first round draft pick, was in with the twos on the defensive line in the edge rotation. Or that the starting offensive line for the team period was Yash, Elton, Josh Myers, John Runyan Jr., and Zach Tom. Well, I mean, keep in mind that not everyone's at these OTAs. These are still voluntary. We don't get into mandatory stuff until the mandatory minicamp in the middle of June. So yesterday, like for these voluntary OTAs, David Bakhtiari was not there. Preston Smith wasn't there. Jay Alexander wasn't there. There are a number of veterans not there. And of course, that's going to alter what you're going to do with these rotations. So is this going to be the opening day offensive line of the Green Bay Packers? No! David Bakhtiari still factors into everything. So bear that in mind. This rotation could look completely different when Bakhtiari's there. For instance, specifically the tackle spot. Now, maybe Elton, Josh Myers, and John Runyan Jr., maybe that stays the same. Although we also know that Zach Tom is probably going to be competing at center and right guard and right tackle. So, just bear that in mind. Now, what is notable, what you can take some real info from, is when a player switches positions or learns a new one. So again, on the offensive line, last year's third-round draft pick, Sean Rhyan. Rhyan coming off of just about the worst possibly human rookie season, maybe in the history of mankind. The guy never played, then all of a sudden at the end of the year got slapped with a 6-game suspension for PED use. So, yeah, it didn't exactly go according to plan. Well, now Rhyan, who played some tackle in college, was going to be a guard in the NFL, well now he's learning center. And why is that notable? Well, for Sean Rhyan himself, learning another position certainly could help his chances of making the roster coming off of that disastrous first year. Maybe, right? You'd certainly think so. Or, for the Packers, on that side of things, look at their depth at center. They've got Josh Myers starting, and then their number 2 center is Jake Hansen. Sure, Zach Tom can play center. Sure, Elton Jenkins can play center, but they very well might be starting at other positions. So their center depth is actually kind of thin. And having a truly dedicated interior guy like Sean Ryan learn center makes a lot of sense for depth rotations. It also may make it easier for the Packers to move on from Jake Hansen, as certain podcasters have been hoping for a while. Now let's move on to storyline number 2, and this one has to do with the old quarterback. Yeah, I know. We don't need to talk about him. He's not a Packer anymore. But whether he plays or not this year is actually quite pertinent to the future of the Packers. Recall in that Packers and Jets trade that if Rodgers plays 65% of the snaps, that second-round pick becomes the first-round pick of the Jets next year. And yesterday, he limped his way out of practice with a calf strain. Now, Rodgers with the New York Jets media yesterday said, he doesn't think it's a big deal. We've seen this tale before of calf strains with AR-12. But here's the thing. It's May. There was some legit concern yesterday from what I saw from people, like worried that, he's pulling these injuries already. He's never going to play 65%. And the thing is, I don't think they were kidding. But it's May. I mean, you're talking about it's going to have to be some kind of catastrophic injury to Aaron Rodgers, tearing an ACL, doing something like season-ending type injury to that old man, to actually for him not to play 65%. Keep in mind, too, look at this past year playing with the broken thumb. The Packers were going to take him out of the lineup, right? And he now is the savior of the Jets franchise. You think they're going to have the leverage or whatever you want to call it to pull him out of the lineup with some pulled muscles and stuff? No, it's never going to happen. It's going to take something major for that to occur. And remember, Packers fans, I understand wanting to root for Aaron Rodgers on a personal level, wanting to see him be successful. But the absolute best case scenario for the Green Bay Packers in terms of draft compensation is that Aaron Rodgers plays at least 65% of the snaps and the New York Jets go 0-17. That's the best possible thing that can happen for the Green Bay Packers. Now, is it likely? Of course not. I'm just saying that's the best. That's how the Packers can get the best possible compensation out of the trade. Now, let's move on to another headline, and that is that Matt LaFleur's offense and everything that they do in the offseason is going to change without AR-12. And I'm going to go with a kinda on this one. There were some things yesterday that Matt LaFleur himself did acknowledge. In fact, his exact quote was, "I think that's a challenging thing for young players to have unscripted periods, really in every phase. We've got to see what everyone else around him, meaning Love, can do as well. And we've got some youth, so it's going to be a work in progress, no doubt about it, throughout the course of OTAs and training camp, and quite frankly, throughout the course of the season." What exactly he was referring to there was he acknowledged that they are doing more unscripted periods, more call-in plays. And at these OTA practices, and really what that means is scripted plays, of course, is, all right, we're going to go out there just like the first 15 in a game. No matter what happens, you're going to run these 15 plays in order. That's just the order of it. Go out there. You're going to know what you're doing. We want to work on these plays, etc. Call-ins or unscripted is more like you're out on the practice field and you don't have a definitive plan. So Matt LaFleur calls in a play to Jordan Love. Calls in a play, Joe Barry, to the defense. Much more keeping them on their toes, much more forcing that kind of mental recall of the playbook and the adjustments that they have to make on the fly, much more indicative of most of an NFL game. And the other thing that I'm going to say here too, will the offense be different this year? Yes, absolutely, unequivocally. With that being said, other coaches have said that the playbook for a fourth-year quarterback in Jordan Love is wide open. I mean, he's his fourth year in the system. Why would we not be running the full playbook just because he's not Aaron Rodgers? But the question is, how different is that playbook going to look? I'm not a big believer in the fact that Aaron Rodgers was walking up there and audibling out LaFleur's calls all the time. I do think, though, that there are a number of compromises between Rodgers and LaFleur in game planning. I think that there was a lot of Rodgers saying, well, I don't really like this. Could we adapt to this style instead? And then LaFleur making said adaptations for his franchise quarterback. This year, I think we see the LaFleur offense in its fullest form. Of course, they want Jordan Love to be comfortable, but Jordan Love doesn't exactly have the same game plan influence of one Aaron Rodgers. So I do think the offense will look a little different. And besides just philosophically different, I bet we're going to see him start using the middle of the field too. How exciting is that going to be? And the other thing that we can really hope for, maybe Love won't run the play clock down to 0 every single play. If he does, it's time we have a talking with Matthew LaFleur. Moving on to the next one. The Packers made a move yesterday. Yeah, they signed a free agent. They cut Nick Guggemos, the tight end, and they brought in Jadakiss Bonds, wide receiver from Hampton University. Jadakiss Bonds has to be one of the coolest names ever. Let's get that out of the way first. But this is a guy who had almost 1,000 yards on 70 catches and 10 touchdowns last year at Hampton. He did test on the slower side. It's not like his RAS was terrific. He's an undrafted free agent. So this testing is still fairly recent. But the thing is, if you go look up his highlight reel, it's just kind of spectacular catch after spectacular catch. The guy knows how to catch the football. But he also dropped a number of really easy ones too. So this is a bit of a project at wide receiver. Now, to expand on that, keep in mind, because, sometimes the response to these bottom of the roster moves isn't exactly happy. The Packers never get anybody of note. They just sign, Goody just signs these unheard of guys. Well, yeah, because it's OTAs and training camp. And frankly, not everyone signed to the Packers roster right now is being signed with the intention of making the 53. And I know that sounds nuts, but look at it this way. Here's a great example. Dan Whalen, punter. They brought him in, right? It's probably still Pat O'Donnell's job. Probably. But they brought in one of the XFL's best punters. Now, why would they do that? A little bit of competition for O'Donnell. And this way, O'Donnell, the oldest player on the roster, doesn't have to do every single punt. Not every single hold. He doesn't have to do everything. Okay? Some of these guys are just brought in to be bodies, to fill positions so that the starters don't have to do so many reps, especially with something like special teams that involves so many bodies. And then, of course, you hope that you find someone who's just like a total diamond in the rough, someone that you didn't expect, right? They're not just signing anybody. I'm not going to get signed to a contract tomorrow just to take up space and be a body. But let's be real here. Not every single guy that's signed is signed with the intent of this guy's going to be our wide receiver 4. Now, if your complaint is they haven't signed a guy to be up high in the wide receiver depth chart or tight end or whatever you want to complain about, okay. But not every single transaction is going to be that. Keep in mind, this is the offseason. They're going to have a 90-man roster right now, which means some of those 90 men you're not going to be familiar with. Although maybe you want to learn Jadakiss Bonds just because he's got an awesome name. Speaking of kicker, punter, spots like that, there's 2 punters on the roster, but there's only one kicker, Anders Carlson, rookie from Auburn. And I gotta say, kind of like punter, they've got 2 in there right now, part probably to have a little bit of competition, learn from each other type deal, but it probably is still O'Donnell's job. Anders Carlson, with the cutting of Parker White yesterday, I don't think just got handed the kicking job. No, I think this may give them a closer look at their rookie Anders Carlson, because now he's going to get every single kick for now. Yeah, kind of the flip side, right? They want him to work. Bisaccia wants him to take every single rep. So give it to him and make sure he's the only kicker there. Now, does that mean he's been handed the job? Absolutely not, especially with a free agent list out there like Ryan Suckup, Mason Crosby, Brandon McManus, Brett Maher, Robbie Gould. Those are some legit veteran kickers out there who are free agents that if Anders Carlson can't get the job done, I don't think the Packers are really going to hesitate to go get a free agent if they're willing to play in Green Bay. Yes, Brandon McManus was released over the last couple of days by the Denver Broncos, consistently was one of the most accurate kickers in the league for a number of years, and then had a very, very down 2022. Potentially someone to keep an eye on if the Packers do eventually make a free agent move at kicker if something happens with Carlson. Moving on from that, the next storyline, I've only got 2 more for you here. And this one was really going around this morning. Dan Orlovsky at ESPN said that Jordan Love, quarterback one of the Green Bay Packers, is under the most pressure of any quarterback in the NFC this year. Never mind Jalen Hurts, who just got paid to be one of the richest people ever. Never mind, Kyler Murray having to show leadership while injured because they think he's a child or something like that. Never mind Dak Prescott, who still has yet to win the big game in Dallas. Never mind Justin Fields down in Chicago, who still is called a running back all the time. Nope. It's on the guy in Green Bay, who's basically been given a contract indicative of a 2-year audition and has been given the keys to the engine. And what's Orlovsky's justification here? He says that because the Packers ran Aaron Rodgers out of town, that Jordan Love must produce. I mean, no. No. The Green Bay Packers currently are odds-on favorites to be like a 7.5 win team. Plus, they had a losing record last year. Rodgers himself last year was not Aaron Rodgers like we've gotten to know him over the last couple of years. Or last several years, I should say. No, Aaron Rodgers last year was a broken, older, different version of that guy. And we can get into that debate a different day if you want. But, I mean, the numbers show it. He was not the same guy as the years previous. So is Jordan Love under the most pressure? No. Jordan Love needs to go out, show competency with some potential. And that's really it. Much like Aaron Rodgers' first year in 2008, was he a perfect quarterback? No, but you saw the team come to life. And you saw the spark that Rodgers played with. And you saw that there was so much more room there, and it was why the Packers had moved on from franchise legend to Brett Favre. But keep in mind, it's not like Rodgers was the unheralded king, right? Like, no, they still chose Brian Brown in the second round, even though it was kind of more to be quarterback 2 and just to have that quarterback pipeline that was so valued by Ron Wolf and Ted Thompson and company. But really, it's not like they knew Aaron Rodgers was going to be Aaron Rodgers when he took over the job in 2008. But they had a good bet. And that's what Jordan Love needs to show this year. Compared to other guys like Dak Prescott, who's making a mint, who is yet to win the big game for Dallas, or compared to other NFC quarterbacks like Justin Fields, who really needs to show that his quarterbacking skills can be paired with his running skills to really electrify the Chicago offense, because it's not like it's his first year starting. No. Jordan Love's pressure is fairly equal to what Fields' was his rookie year. You're going to have some ups. You're going to have some downs. And keep in mind, too, that is exactly what Matt LaFleur was saying way back at the NFL owner meetings. Matt LaFleur was saying, hey, we need to temper expectations on Jordan Love. And as soon as he said that, all the rival fan bases went, ah, ha, 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 ha. Their opposing coach says that Love sucks. No. What he was saying was that people should not be comparing Jordan Love to Aaron Rodgers, any version of Aaron Rodgers. Jordan Love is going to be a first-year starting quarterback. And what they expect is that there's going to be some down moments, some real teaching tape, let's call it. But they're also hoping that there are some brilliant moments that can usher this franchise into the future. Last storyline of the day, last OTAs topic I'm going to be talking about. Not even related to OTAs. But here's the thing. It was announced that the Green Bay Packers are hosting the 2025 NFL Draft. And immediately, Green Bay was aglow. Wisconsin was aglow. Packer fans were aglow with the news that we're finally getting a draft. The rest of the NFL world was disappointed. Let's say that. And there were questions about, can Green Bay host it? Are there enough roads? Are there enough stoplights? Are there enough hotels? And the questions, some are valid. Sure, Green Bay does not have the metropolis infrastructure of Chicago, Kansas City. We can be honest, we can say that. It's true. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to host a great event. Now, Mark Murphy in his press conference today talked about how they're in talks with Amtrak about running an exclusive line for the draft, a line from Milwaukee to Green Bay and back for those days of the draft. Or he mentioned that they're also talking about cruise ships, to go on cruise ships from Milwaukee to Green Bay and back. That's really cool. See, the thing is, when you host the draft in LA, if you're on the west side of LA and you're trying to get to the east side of LA and you got to drive, guess how long you're driving for? Quite a while, right? And you might only be traveling 8 miles or so, but you're going to be driving for a while. Milwaukee to Green Bay, it's a heck of a lot more miles, but it's not quite the same thing, right? So Green Bay's event, I just gotta say, as someone pointed out in the comments last video, Oshkosh hosts EAA, which is like 600,000 people. Don't you think Green Bay can host the draft, which is rumored to be less than that? Murphy did say today that the estimated number that they're expecting for visitors is about 250,000. Frankly, I feel like that's a little low compared to what the drafts have been in the last 5-6 years. I know it's Green Bay. Attendance probably won't match some of the highest totals, but still 250 did feel a little low. So, the NFL knows what it's doing, for the most part. And the NFL doesn't take these events lightly. They vet them. Murphy said that the process to get this draft was much like the process for applying for a Super Bowl. If the NFL gave it to Green Bay, they have complete faith that the state of Wisconsin is going to turn out a wonderful event. And we could just leave it at that for now, because there will be much, much more to talk about in the next 2 years. Thanks so much for joining me here on Lombardi Time Brews. Don't forget, on Friday, going to do a live show from 5 to 5:30. Lambeau time, answering some questions, just talking Packers, just hanging out for a half hour to dive into the weekend. Hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. I will see you on Friday. And as always, go Pack Go.